It finally happened. After over 2 whole years of waiting, we finally got a new MCU movie. Sure, the shows have been great and definitely helped scratch that itch, but there's just something about watching these movies on the big screen that has been sorely missed. Yes, after multiple delays, Black Widow is finally here, and it was pretty good. I have to say, I didn't have the highest expectations. Not that I thought it would be bad, just that I knew this wasn't going to be on the level of, say, Endgame. I was expecting much more of a mid-tier Marvel movie, and I think that's pretty much what we got. There were a lot of great action scenes, the humour was actually quite funny, which is something I wasn't really anticipating, and the new characters were sublime. Mainly Natasha's family, which is not really a massive surprise based off the trailers. And I think it's pretty safe to say that Florence Pugh absolutely stole the show, which is good because it seems like she'll be a big part of the franchise moving forward. So all in all, I really enjoyed this movie, but I have a couple problems with it. First of all, this movie should have come out a long time ago, sometime during Phase 3 after Civil War around 2017, and it should not have been the first Black Widow movie, because at times it really feels like this is a sequel to a movie we never got. Let me back up a little bit. Black Widow was first introduced in Iron Man 2, which means she predates most of the other OG Avengers. So why did it take so long for her to get a solo movie? Well, basically it's because of this guy. Ike Perlmutter, the former CEO of Marvel Entertainment, who honestly kinda sucks. Like, a lot. This is the guy that said people wouldn't notice the Rhodey recast because black people all look the same. And for years was a major block on a Black Widow movie as well as any other female-led movies because he didn't think girl superhero toys would sell. Thankfully, he hasn't had any sway over the MCU in some time now. However, it still took a while for Black Widow to get her own movie. I get that Phase 3 had a pretty full lineup. Each movie was either a sequel to an already popular franchise or introducing a character before Infinity War. Still, I think there would have been room for this movie, especially if it wasn't the first Black Widow movie. Alright, I'm about to get into pretty heavy spoilers for the movie now, so if you haven't seen it, go watch it right now. You don't even have to move, you just have to pay like $30 on top of your already existing Disney Plus subscription. Okay, so what is this brand new first Black Widow movie going to be all about? Well, to be honest, it's not even my idea. The movie we have pretty much lays it all out. It's the original Budapest mission, the one everyone's been theorizing about ever since that one offhand comment in the Avengers. Natasha's defection to S.H.I.E.L.D., her first attempt at taking down Dreykov, Black Widow and Hawkeye fighting their way out of the city, hanging out in air ducts of a train station for days on end. Come on, the movie practically writes itself. Not only does this just sound like a movie that I would have loved to watch back in 2013, I think it's something that the character definitely deserved and would have greatly benefited from across her entire arc in the MCU. Even good old Hawkeye would have got a little bit of much needed spotlight. Let's start with how this movie would have specifically changed the movie we did get. Because in this hypothetical, I wouldn't really change anything about that movie at all. Maybe cut or change a line here or there, but other than that, it can stay pretty much exactly the same. And what is really going to be enhanced is the villains, who were fine. Look, they were far from the best villains in the MCU, but also pretty far from the worst. First of all, Dreykov. He was decently threatening and honestly one of the more vile characters we've seen from Marvel, but we don't really meet him until the third act outside of a brief appearance in the opening flashback. And then as quickly as he's introduced, he's already been outsmarted and taken out. If we had seen more of him in the first mission, his return and overall presence in this movie would have been that much more impactful. And someone who would have benefited from this movie even more would be Taskmaster. Now I actually like how Taskmaster was used in this movie, but I've seen a lot of criticism that they wasted the character here by significantly changing them from the comics. While I don't necessarily agree with that, I will say that the reveal of Taskmaster being Dreykov's daughter fell a little flat. Mainly because we hadn't actually seen her before. Imagine that for some reason you're watching the unmasking scene without sound or subtitles. You would probably think that Taskmaster is just some other random widow. Her whole character and identity reveal is incredibly similar to Bucky as the Winter Soldier, but what we got was nowhere near as memorable as that. However, that moment could have been a major shock if Antonia was a character we got to know and ultimately saw die in the first movie. It could have been an even bigger surprise than the Bucky reveal because it's a change from the comics, so even the biggest die-hard fans wouldn't have necessarily known it was coming. Now I mentioned before that this other Black Widow movie could add even more to the overall MCU. I would place it early in Phase 2, probably between Iron Man 3 and Dark World, but definitely before Winter Soldier because it gives us a chance to get a bit more of S.H.I.E.L.D. before it falls. Because we never really got that much of it in the MCU. Early on, it was mainly just Coulson with a few background agents, and then occasionally Fury, Widow, or a tiny bit of Hawkeye. Then we finally see a fully operational S.H.I.E.L.D. in Avengers, and it's completely torn down 3 movies later. Letting us see Nat and Clint's romp through Budapest would have been a really fun look at how S.H.I.E.L.D. operates when they're not dealing with superpowered characters. It's a smaller scale mission, not an alien invasion or a Nazi group rising up through the organisation. It's a significant moment, but still fairly day-to-day operations for S.H.I.E.L.D. The biggest change we get out of this, though, is really fleshing out Natasha's character. We first hear about Dreykov's daughter from Loki when he's taunting Nat about the red in her ledger, and outside of a few other conversations across the movies, we never really know what any of that means. Sure, we understand that she's killed people, but so have the other Avengers. They do it all the time. It's one thing to hear about the things she's done and another to actually see them. And if the audience knows where she's coming from, her growth and ultimate sacrifice in Endgame means so much more. Unfortunately, this didn't happen, but the good thing is everything I've laid out did actually still happen in universe, and it's canon whether we actually get to see it or not. So on rewatches, you can just imagine you actually saw that sick movie where Black Widow and Hawkeye fought their way through an entire city just to kill one guy and blow up his daughter in the process. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like and subscribe, and you can always hit that bell so you don't miss it when I upload in the future. I'll see you next time. Bye.